Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code ONEFREEPP for a free single card today.
Hi, everybody. Dan Illman here with Kentucky Derby Prep Recap and Mike Beer taking a look at the Wood Memorial mile and an eighth final prep race for the Kentucky Derby at Aqueduct. And the favorite in this race, Deterministic, off of his victory in the Gotham. A very nice performance. It was over a wet track. Deterministic breaks from post position 3. Keep an eye on Resilience, breaking from post position 1. He broke really sharply, did Resilience under John Velasquez, and found a good spot just off the lead.
Yeah, he goes forward in here. He gets a really good trip in this race, and he kind of always looks like he's going to win, Dan, sort of up close here with a bunch of long shots. The two favorites in this race, both 2 for 2 on the way in, both with a lot to prove. Boy, they were both really disappointing, both Tuscan Sky and Deterministic.
Yeah, they were rather disappointing, weren't they? Getting to the front is a big long shot. Evening News sets a reasonable opening quarter of 23-2, and Velasquez has Resilience just in the catbird seat sitting second. And as you mentioned, he's being surrounded by long shots. He's a very strong contender at 9-2. The trip really did work out.
Yeah, and you can see Johnny V even here at up the backstretch about halfway. He's just going to ease back. He doesn't want to be stuck in behind these two big prices ahead of him. He gets this horse to the outside, and Resilience from this point, Dan, he's just going to range up to these horses on the outside, and you can tell the horses in front of him are in big trouble, and then it's just a question of, is anybody going to come from behind this horse?
He certainly gets a strong jump on the competition coming from the back of the pack. Here's the bid now from Resilience, and it is a strong one. Directly to his inside and in between horses is Parks shipper Lonesome Boy. He's 80-1 in this spot, so he's under a hard ride trying to make the lead. Resilience is moving well. Where are the other contenders?
Yeah, they're just not really making bids in here. Deterministic got over towards the inside. He was really hard to rate early in this race, but he got over to the inside, and he's still down in there, Dan. He's just not making any kind of a run, and we had to cut the replay there a little bit to avoid a spill there in mid-stretch. You know, I don't really know what to say. This horse that wins it runs really well. He is drifting out at the end of this race, but he doesn't give these horses a chance. Huge long shot. Society Man, clearly second best.
Society Man was 106-1 in this race, and he's running on strongly for second, earning enough Kentucky Derby points to get into the field for trainer Danny Gargan. But the story of this race was simply Resilience. He won very, very easily. The spill was deposition. He went down after clipping heels at the 3/16. It appears horse and rider are going to be fine. Very good news there. But let's talk a little bit about some of the also-rans in here. Again, Deterministic off of his win in the Gotham. I guess he'd still had some things to prove, stretching out a little bit in distance and doing it over a fast track. It wasn't a very strong performance, and now his Kentucky Derby hopes, they're in doubt.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see if they would even, try to press on to a race like that, even if they could get in, Dan. He just didn't really step up, I think, the way he needed to step up in this race. It's obviously too early to give up on him. His first 2 races were both really good. But this was, a step up in class and a stretch out in distance for him. And he did get bumped at the start. He would not settle early in this race. He was under a really hard hold. But after that, when he finally did settle, I didn't see an excuse for him. He got an inside trip. I didn't see a bunch of traffic for him. He just didn't fire.
Tuscan Sky, who finished 7th in this race, came in with a lot of buzz. He just really didn't show a lot of early speed. He took a little bit of a bump at the start. He did have to steady a little bit when that horse went down, but I don't think any of that really cost him a major placing.
Yeah, I didn't either. You're right that, he was bothered a little bit by that spill, but he wasn't really kicking on from that point. And after the bump at the start, he was one of the horses in here who just sort of ridden along all the way around the track in there and never really picked up any kind of a serious run. Another horse, too early to give up on him. His first 2 starts were really good. He was bad in here.
Uncle Heavy finished 5th, and this horse just hasn't had a lot of breaks after winning his most recent race at Aqueduct, coming from way off the pace over a speed-favoring track. After that race, he sort of got stuck at Aqueduct in quarantine, and he drew a terrible post position in this race, and he just didn't get going until it was way too late.
Yeah, the post position felt like it hurt him in this race. He was out of the gate about a half length slow, maybe. And I thought his rider did the right thing, that he just sort of angled him over to the inside, way back off the pace. And then he got him out into the clear. He tried a, 4 or 5 wide run around the final turn that didn't really reach contention. He was still racing on, though. He was bothered by the spill a little bit as well in this race. He just sort of finished evenly. I wasn't terribly disappointed in him in this race. I still think there's something there. This horse is pretty good and he wants distance.
The Pletcher trained Protective ended up finishing third in here after falling far, far behind in the early portion of this race. It was nice to see him stay on a bit at a big price. Now, he is unlikely for the Kentucky Derby. He simply won't have enough qualifying points to get into the race as it stands right now. Future prospects for this horse, however.
Yeah, he ran okay in this race. Way, way back out of it early. Nice ride, though, for him as well. That sort of in-out trip that really worked well for him. He's one of the horses, actually, that seemed like he bumped deposition in mid-stretch there, causing that horse to go down. But he went on after that and finished a pretty good third here. I thought it was a pretty promising performance.
Where did this race come from for Society Man, who earns enough points to get into the gate in the Kentucky Derby? He'll be a long shot in that race, but he might not be 106 to 1.
Yeah, well, you would think. Interesting, though. He was one of the horses. It's hard to go back and look at that and think that even when you handicap the race in retrospect, this horse is going to be over 100 to 1 in this race. I know he hadn't run, any super fast races, but he just broke his maiden with a solid figure. And he did it in a race where he got a pace in front of him, and he came with a big finish in there. He actually looked good breaking his maiden. 1 star prior to that, Gargan ran this horse in a grade 3 as a maiden. It's not like his first 2 starts were terrible. I'm surprised. I didn't like him in here. I didn't expect him to win or run second, but I didn't think it'd be 100 to 1 either.
Let's take a closer look at the winner, Resilience by Super Stallion Into Mischief. It's a very strong distance pedigree, although one somewhat geared towards turf. The dam's a half to Courageous Cat, a grade 1 winner on the turf. After Market was a multiple grade 1 stakes winner on the turf. Also a grade 2 dirt route winner in Dubai. The second dam, Tranquility Lake, was a multiple grade 1 stakes winner on the turf. John Velasquez rode Resilience in the Wood. Will not be aboard in the Kentucky Derby. He'll likely be aboard Fierceness, but Resilience really showed a lot more focus with the blinkers on, and I guess it helped being away from Sierra Leone a little bit, who handled him in the Risen Star.
Yes, the Risen Star wasn't bad, though. He just wasn't quite good enough. That was a really strong prep race as things are turning out. This horse ran fine in there. I liked his maiden win prior to that, Dan. And not only was he in really tough in the Risen Star, but look at the first 3 starts that this horse ran in his career. He ran in nothing but super strong maiden races before he got the win. Ran well in the Risen Star, ran well again here, keeps getting better.
Yeah, faced Locked in his debut, Stronghold in start 2. Nash, who might end up being a promising sprint type in his 3rd lifetime outing. He has now paired up 90 Beyer tops in his last 2 races. He'll obviously have to improve in the Kentucky Derby. Stamina shouldn't be an issue, however. 6 starts, all in route races. We'll take a look at the prices for the Wood Memorial. Resilience, $11 for the Great Bill Mott Society. Man, $54 to place. And Todd Pletcher's Protective at a big price, $13.20 to show. Resilience on to the Kentucky Derby in the first Saturday in May.